A very good morning, everyone. You folks never fail to surprise me. I'm too impressed at the turnout for this 144th weekly webinar session organized by AABN on a Sunday morning, when we usually wake up to a laid-back, agenda-free day. We at AABN have been trying to transform this lethargic phase into a productive phase by presenting to you a gamut of technical and business experts and seasoned speakers to talk to you about upgrading core skills and competitiveness relevant to changing times and future challenges. So at the outset, I owe each of you a big thanks for logging, and I assure you that the next 90 minutes is definitely going to be a rewarding experience with useful takeaways for us. Yes, I'm saying this with confidence because such is the profile of our guest speaker today. The whole objective of this webinar series is the creation of awareness for entrepreneurship, innovation, and leadership throughout the AABN community and beyond. Being proactive as a leader is one of the best things you can do for your team. The more leaders can stay current with their team, their businesses, and their competitors, the better they can help their employees plan and implement newer strategies. Mindset are very important. The way you see yourself, the lens through which you approach problems, your habitual ways of thinking, these all play a large role in determining the course of your life. And while there are many different mindsets that we would all be wise to cultivate, one stand out above the others. Without the mindset, the other helpful mindsets aren't so helpful and probably would not be adopted in the first place. It's the birthplace of grit. It's what inspires resourcefulness. It's the mindset that puts you in charge of your life, your mind, and your actions. The essential business that is to have a proactive mindset of continuous improvement, but the strategies for doing so are plentiful. There are too many variables involved: company focus, industry, region, size, to state unequivocally this is the way. Working with entrepreneurs in general is the amazing people we get to meet. I was fortunate to be connected to Bharti Naik, one of the many successful proactivity coach working with the entrepreneurs. Bharti is most well known to help and create that life-changing move to reach fulfillment that one looks for. What's even cooler is that Bharti is equally as passionate about entrepreneurship as we are. That is why when we first spoke, we thought it would be awesome for her and her group to have her deliver a speech today at our forum on Hit the Proactive Path, Mindset, Business and Success, and make her available for this interactive business networking session. Today, I'm very pleased to welcome Bharti as our guest speaker. Before I hand over the floor to her, let me quickly run you through her achievements, a long list that has been cut short rather reluctantly by me to save time. Bharti, through her keynote speeches, has empowered business leaders to develop a proactive process at the workplace and thrive together to the truest potential. She has had the privilege of working with leaders across the board globally, from C-suite executives to entrepreneurs, to realize proactivity. Her life and work experiences have made her an empathetic leader with a focused vision to be proactive and adapt in multiple roles. Today, she's a parallel entrepreneur leading 3 different verticals in various capacities, in addition to being a proactivity coach, global keynote speaker, an NLP trainer, and a baker, amongst other things. The lessons she has picked up along the way, both professionally and personally, have motivated her to build the proactivity blueprint for business leaders. She looks forward to empowering your organization, equipping your leaders with the right tools, and transforming them into masters of proactivity. Her business ventures include Inspire Learning, Inspire Human Potential Private Limited, and Virak Food Private Limited. Her certifications include a diploma in training and development, diploma in industrial relations and personal management, NLP trainer from INPLTA and ANLP UK. Her career highlights include expert speaker international NLP conference organized by ANLP UK, special guest speaker, Jain International Trade Organization, JBN, expert speaker, National HR Convention and Expo, Maldives Association of HR Professionals, speaker professional speakers Sumit organized the PSA India Women of Excellence Award for Muskan web series, Brahma Kumaris, Godlywood Studio, Mount Abu, the PSA Spirit of Service Award, Professional Speakers Association India. With a personality like Bharti, you can go on and on eulogizing. From a resume, you sure did understand that this achiever would stop for nothing less than the sky. Yes, reach for the skies is the vibe she spreads through her talks as well. So I'm not going to make you wait any longer and let Bharti take over and regale you with her astute experiences and fresh ideas. Thank you, and over to you, Bharti.
Thank you so much, Gopi. And it is really a pleasure to be among all of you on a Sunday morning. And how productively you're utilizing Sunday mornings. It is really, really excited to see so many of them. I was expecting like 30, 40, but we are all 62 in the room. And that's really, really very, very exciting. So thank you so much, each and everyone who has logged in today from different places, from your home, from offices, and making your Sunday so beautiful. And truly speaking, it has made my Sunday very beautiful because something that I'm so passionate about, something that I have worked throughout my life, also I've learned in my journey, and that is what exactly I'm going to share today. And Gopi, it's really glad that you told me about the 8th October. Uh, it was I don't know how many months that Gopi was literally messaging me for every Sunday, and it was my bad that I was not able to give that time for this forum. So thank you so much for this opportunity. One request, if by any chance when I am sharing some of the content and what is proactivity, how we can use this proactivity in our business, in our life as well. If you have any questions, you can put it in your notepad, or you can put it on a chat. We will use the chat box quite often for interaction as well. And if there is a very burning question, somewhere where you disagree and you think, no, Bharti, this is not how it should be, this is not what I agree upon, please put it on the chat box so that I can take this up and we can address it there and there. All right. So when I was going through my journey of business and, of course, my health and my personal life as well, I want to share a very personal story with all of you. Uh, it was 2019, way back in November, when I went to a doctor because what happened was I was to go for a blood donation. So I went to the camp and they asked me to check the hemoglobin before I go for the blood test. So when I checked the hemoglobin and they said, ma'am, we can't allow you because the hemoglobin is quite less. I was quite shocked because never it has happened that it is less. So that is where my husband stepped in and he said, nothing doing, let's go to the doctor and see what it is. So we went to the doctor, and I personally visited a gynecologist because there was something that was going on since months, and I did not pay that attention. I was ignoring that fact. So I went to the gynecologist, and she asked for sonographies and blood tests and a couple of more tests. So she said, just go through this, we will see what it is. Now, I was being nervous that why she is asking for sonographies and blood tests, but I went by what the doctor said. So I went through the test. Now you can imagine that how a child is when you have appeared for how a student is when you appear for a board exam and the result is going to come. You are nervous, your heart is beating fast, and you don't know what the result is going to be. So the next day when the report came in, I went to the lab to get the report. And the person who submit gave me the report. He was a doctor in the lab, and he looked at me and he said, "You must see the doctor." I said, "Is there something serious?" And he said, "Just go to the doctor. She will guide you." I became more nervous. I said, "I don't know what is there in the report. Why he told me this way?" Nevertheless, I went to the doctor. I gave her the report, and I was sitting on the edge of a chair, nervous. I was shaking my one leg, And I was fidgeting with my hands, and I was saying, "What is it, doctor? Tell me." And she gave me one statement, and I think that stuck my mind very deeply. And the statement she said that, "Bharti, you procrastinated, but the cyst inside you was not. The cyst was progressing." And that shook me up. And she said, if you would have come a year back or maybe 1.5 year back, it could have been easily handled by some medicines and some injections. But now we will have to go through a surgery. We'll have to surgically remove this, and then we can see what happens. And then we will have to also go through, put the cyst to another lab for biopsy and see if there are any chances of malignancies or anything. I was I was shocked. It was as if my entire, the whole moment came for a standstill. I said, "Doctor, please don't say all these things." And she said, "No, you ignored certain things. You did not take care of it when it was supposed to be done." And of course, then I went through the surgery, and everything is fine. And I was all okay with the health. And but that statement actually shook me up. Now, this was about health. When I started looking at my business, when I started looking at my work that I'm doing, and I started reflecting back upon all the assignments, the opportunities, the potential clients where they had approached me, the opportunities that had come on my doorway, the proposals that I'd sent, and it did not convert into a business. Or when I had went for a business meeting and it was all okay, and then everything just fizzed out. So I went back to those moments to realize that what exactly happened. Why was it that this did not convert it into a positive response for me? Or what happens that when I do certain things, it didn't give me the results that I desire for? And when I did that, I started making notes. And you would really be surprised to know that every such opportunity or any kind of proposal that didn't convert into a business, I actually wrote down into my diary and helped myself to understand that what had actually happened. And I realized that every time that the business didn't happen or the opportunity was a missed opportunity, it was somewhere to do with major things that were underlining my behavior, that was underlining the actions that I was taking. Delayed in decisions, not acting upon the task that was supposed to be done, or taking it for granted that, okay, he or she knows me well. So either ways, I'll be able to put myself, or something or the other would be there. So what led me then was to start digging upon studying these two words. One was procrastination. I wanted to understand whether this is a deep rooted behavioral pattern that is going on, and I am procrastinating in taking some decisions or actions that I'm supposed to do it, or I'm delaying it, putting it at the back burner. Is that the case? And if that is the case, what could be the possible solution? What is it that if I have to come out of this pattern, which has been deep rooted now, if I have to come out of this, how can I do that? And that is where proactivity is what I started believing in. Because every time when I would get results, when I would get some business opportunity and it would turn into a business, I would reflect on those events as well to find out that here are some of the examples that worked for me, and here are some of the examples that didn't work for me. So, what is it that worked for me? And when I realized that when I am not reacting in the situation, but I am very proactive in my approach. When I'm prepared, when I plan things well, when I do things in a certain way, when I also look everything in a totality, of course, looking at into the details of every aspect of it. So when I'm doing all these things, I'm able to put entire thing together and the deal happens or I get the business. But when I'm not doing it, when I have too many things on my plate and I'm simply reacting to the situation, let the situation come as it is, I will handle it that way. Or maybe I'll just do it a night before, maybe I'll do it a day before. And I will put myself into a lot of stress and tension and to get the things done. And that is how. So I started noticing how my behavior is happening in certain situations and how the emotions changes, because the emotions that are changing is either affecting my body or it is helping me to grow. So I was also noticing my mental emotional state as well as the thoughts that revolve around all these things. And that led me to understand proactivity in much detail. And I started reading articles and books about proactivity, about procrastination. I approached some of the people who have worked in the space of proactivity, in the space of procrastination. And I started connecting with them to understand that how we can use this in the business. And interestingly, I would want to present you three fantastic case studies which I studied, and I realized that yes, these are best examples, or probably one of the best examples that can be aligned with proactivity in business. So allow me to present those case studies with you, and that will help all of us to understand what proactivity for business growth is. Uh, I hope everybody can see the screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, yes, we can. So the first case study is about the Shell company, which is oil and gas company. And interestingly, I was going through this particular company's profile to understand how exactly they did. And I came across this interesting method or approach, which is called scenario planning. I don't know if many of you are aware about scenario planning, but this scenario planning is a method, is a approach that Shell company has been using since a very long time. So to help you understand what exactly this scenario planning is, give me a moment. Okay. So to help you understand what scenario planning is, so what happens is, if I have to give you the same example of Shell company, what they do is every 2 years, they invite people, professionals from different background. So people from psychology background, from environmentalist, some of them are economists, some of them are educators, some of them are reformers, activists, business owners, then people who are in the ministries, uh, many people from different background. They invite all of them. So representing one person from one background, they would people also from the medical science. So they'll invite all of them, and they will be together. So close to some 100 people will be there in the room. They'll come together in that room, and they will brainstorm, discuss scenarios where things might happen in the future. So they will come up with any kind of situation or scenario that may affect the global economy, that may affect the global environment, and it might impact the company directly or indirectly. So these were the scenarios they would discuss, and they would brainstorm the possible solution. Now we may think that it could be just one of the scenarios that would happen. So I'll give you an example of a particular scenario that was discussed and how it was brainstormed. So every 2 years, these professionals would be invited, and they would sit in one room. They would discuss different scenarios. So one of the scenario that was under discussion a couple of years back, that was, what if Soviet Union breaks? It disintegrates. All right. Now I'm talking about years somewhere between 1990s, when the Soviet Union broke. It was 1991. So I'm talking about a few years before. So maybe late 1980s, where this scenario, hypothetical scenario, scenario was discussed. And the question was, what if Soviet Union breaks? Now, this was a time when Soviet Union was at its peak. Nobody in their weirdest, wildest dream would even imagine that Soviet Union will break and everything will be disintegrated. Nobody had ever thought about it. And this was the question that was put forth and say, okay, if this happens, how, as Shell Company, we are going to deal with this situation, how we'll handle and benefit out of this situation. And everybody started brainstorming. And not only they came up with possible solutions, but they actually came up with a whole action plan. They also put down that what are the resources that we would need, how we will execute, what steps we will take, what benefit we will get, what is the outcome that we will do, whom we will approach, when, why, and what is it that exactly we will do. So they started brainstorming every part of it. And after that, they documented this. So every scenario that they would discuss, they would brainstorm among all these questions that they would have. And then they will document every scenario and it will be registered in one file. And that file will be put up in their library. So they had like a huge library of files where they would put it up. And that is how Shell Company, all these professionals, they discussed this particular question and they created a file. They made an entire report of actionable items and everything. And they documented it and kept it in the file. Then came 1991 when Soviet Union broke. Actually, it got disintegrated. And this was the time when what Shell Company did was they simply went to their library. They pulled out that file. They looked at what were the actions that were discussed, what were the points that we need to take care, whom we are going to approach, how the entire methodology would be. So they just opened that file, they looked at all the details, and they took actions. Now I'll tell you what happened. This was a time when the Soviet Union was breaking, it was disintegrating, there was chaos, and the global economy was at a dip. Everybody, the entire world leaders, they were all wondering, they were worried that what is going to happen. The competitors of Shell Company, they were going to the government, the UK government, and other governments to find out that how we are going to come up with this. So their discussion, their argument, presenting some of the ways went on for a week. Meanwhile, what Shell Company did was they went to the Russia, to the remotest village where they had these oil tanks and the wells. They went to the village. They met the mayor of that town. They approached him. They gave him the deal. They negotiated with the best deal possible, and they got the entire deal to extract oil from that entire place. So in a week's time, when the competitors were struggling to understand that how are we going to deal with the situation where Soviet Union is no more and now we don't know what's going to come up. And that is the time where Shell Company already acted upon it and got the best deal. And that is where the Shell Company became more bigger and stronger. Now, this happened is because of few things that they started looking at it years back. They adapted an approach called the scenario planning, which is a part of, or I would say, which comes under the proactive approach. That how proactively you look at your business, how proactively you act upon certain situations, how proactively you look at your vision, you look at your objectives and the goals. Are they aligned with what you want to achieve? And that is how the Shell Company acted upon it. Moving on to the another case study. This is the conference that happens in UK every year, and the conference is about NLP, which is called Neuro Linguistic Programming. I am attending this, and this year I was as invited as a speaker to speak at the conference, International NLP Conference, which is organized by Association of NLP, which is based at UK. Uh, I brought this case study majorly to help us understand that this conference happens every year. and they have the fixed date. So in 2017, when for the first time I attended this conference, I remember that was the first day of the conference. It was Friday, and we had a master trainer who conducted the master class. It started exactly at 9:30, and 11:15 was the first break. So we all came out of the conference room for a 15 to 20 minutes of tea break, and we were all having a discussion and networking, and I was meeting all the master trainers and trainers from different parts of the world, and I was having a conversation with them when 2 minutes before the break would complete, there was an announcement, and the organizers, they came forward in that informal setup, and they announced next year 2018's conference dates, the timings, the venue, and also they announced that who is going to conduct the master class, which is the one full day of master class. And they announced that uh, a year back. And because of that announcement, of course, then they had the whole marketing thing in place where they put up the spot registration, the lowest of the lowest ticket for attending the conference. Now, of course, that was all the marketing part. But the point here is they were ready with everything a year back. And they announced the master trainer on the first day of the conference, and followed by the registrations, the branding, the marketing of the entire conference for the whole year, collating all the videos, and keep on pushing them through social media, through emails, and through various different channels that they can. So for a conference of this stature, where they are inviting the global leaders, global trainers from different parts of the world coming together and sharing the crux of the NLP that they are so passionate about. For an event to happen like this, they were prepared, executed, acted a year back. So their entire planning, preparedness happened maybe 1.5 years back, or maybe even before that. So they were working at least 1.5 years before. And not only this, when in 2020, when the COVID hit suddenly, and nobody was prepared for that scenario. Nobody was prepared for this situation, and the conference was supposed to happen in May, and the news broke in February and March. So they swiftly acted upon it. They simply converted everything into an online virtual platform. They started putting out the messages and making all the delegates into an ease mode and converting the entire conference into a virtual one. Now, this kind of entire preparedness and the execution happens when you are thinking way ahead than the reality that stucks in. So before the reality happens, you are already advanced in your mindset. You're already advanced in your approach in how do you want to take it forward in your business. The third case study that I would want to present is about the iOS and the iPhones, how the concept was from the launch to the sale. So I don't know, some of you, if you remember, when the first iPhone that was launched, that was way back in 2002, and the sale happened in the month of June. But the launch, the announcement that Steve Jobs did, that was in the month of January, which was 2002. So they announced that this is the kind of iPhone and this is what we are going to put it in the market. So for 6 months, they had their pre-orders and hyped up the entire branding and marketing for this new phone that became a revolution in the whole telecom industry, in the whole phone industry. And they actually were able to nail it, because in the June, when actually the iPhone was sold in the market, there was a huge queues, and it came into the news channels. I remember it distinctly that it came in the news channel that there's like a long queue of people only to buy iPhones. That's the first in the market, and they all wanted to grab it. Now, this launch happened in 2002, January. The sale happened in June. But the concept of iPhone, the concept of the iOS as a platform, that happened 2 years back, where the ideation stage, that happened from the ideation stage. The engineers took it over and they started researching. They started doing so many experiments. They started executing the models. They started changing the platform. They made n number of changes to understand that how we can build iOS. So it didn't happen few months before or a year before, but they were already 2 years or 2.5 years back. And then everything came into existence. Then the reality happened, and we know then everything about iPhone is a history. But those things happened much before. Now the question comes is that if these are simply the three case studies, and I'm sure there are so many other case studies when we start looking at different businesses, we would know that yes, they have been proactive in their approach. They have been proactive in their business. So the question that I would want to ask and probably want you all to think is, we all know that proactive or being proactive is very good for our business. We all know that when we say that, okay, I want to adapt to proactivity in my business or maybe in my life as well, in my personal things as well, it is the right way to do. I don't want to wait for a doctor to tell me that, oh my God, you are at such a stage that you must go for walks or you must exercise. I don't want to come to a certain place where I have to seek advice or a warning from somebody else. I want to be prepared before that. So when we all know that proactive approach is the right approach, or maybe that is how we must or we should be doing it, then the question is, why don't we do it? Why is it that we don't adapt to the proactive approach? Why we're not proactive in whichever areas that we are struggling? Maybe in whichever department that we are struggling in business, or maybe we are looking at business in a different angle, but the fact remains the same. Why we are not proactive? So I want to ask this question. And with this question, I want you to put your answers in the chat box to help me understand that what is your thought process? Why is it that we are not proactive? If what I shared about the case studies and I shared about my example, if that is what it is, why we are not proactive? No, Krishna Kumar, proactivity is not same as planning. In fact, planning is one part of proactivity. So the difference between proactivity and the planning is, I would say, if I look at the steps of proactivity, you may start with planning about how you want to take it forward. But we all know that only planning doesn't work, because planning is just 5%, 10% of it, unless you have acted upon it, unless you have acted on it. But how would you act it if you are not being prepared about it? If you don't know how to do it, how are you going to actually do it? So planning becomes one part of it. Preparedness for your business becomes another part of it, and then comes the action or the execution part of it. So in preparedness, it could be that you want to acquire certain knowledge, you want to sharpen certain skills, you want to look at certain resources which you think that it will be required to grow further. So you may look at all these aspects when it comes to preparedness. So planning is very different from being proactive. Okay, I have got some of the answers. Let me just pick up and look at this. Okay. Comfort zone, yes, Sudhi, we fall a lot in our comfort zone, and hence we kind of sit on it. And lazy, yes. By the way, laziness is very different from being from procrastination. So yes, we sometimes get lazy, and it impacts or affects our business. As preference is given to urgent issues, long-term items might miss. Yes, Ramesh, it does happens with us many a times, because when we look at our preferences, when we look at our uh, the choices that we have in a business, we tend to keep certain tasks to come to a point where they become urgent. They're actually not urgent at that stage. But because we chose something else, the task that we have not taken it up becomes urgent. And then we only go into that vicious cycle of taking care of the urgent issues because they are urgent and of course they are important. So again, the question comes is that do we want to keep those as it is, the task, and when they become urgent, that is the time we pick it up? Or because we know they're important, let me pick it up and take care of them. I may not make them urgent because I know that they are important. Reluctance to face failure, absolutely, Stalin. We have this fear of failure and we don't want to fail. And that is one of the major challenges. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk further. Proactiveness comes on passion and motivation. I would say that to some extent, because you are passionate about something, because you are motivated about something, you may kind of become proactive in that particular area or that particular task. But I would say when I look at some of the leaders, they are proactive because they have designed or probably they have programmed their mindset in certain way that they would be proactive. Now, when you are proactive, you don't act because you have a fear. All right. So when I'm saying I'm proactive, I'm not taking decisions or acting upon something because I have a fear that what if this happens? I don't want this to happen. Hence, I'm proactive. It's not about the fear. You are proactive because you want that to happen. So you are more positive towards any outcome. You are more positive towards the result that you have. And hence I'll be proactive. So there's a difference when you act because of fear, and there's a difference when you act because you are looking forward to something. Uh, Future is fluid, hence we procrastinate. Okay. So, Vishwanath, of course, I'll share a little more insight about procrastination. Lack of awareness and comfort zone, yes. Yes, sometimes, yes, if the activity is not very, if you're not very enthusiastic about it, you may delay it. But the fact remains is when I was going through a book, uh, uh, Brian Tracy's Eat Your Frog First, that is where also one of the approach or one of the ways that you can get away from procrastination or you can be proactive is eat the frog first. So if the activity doesn't create any enthusiasm in you, probably that is the task that you must take it first and put it off the shelf because you just want to finish it. And because you're active, you're alert, you are fresh. So putting hands into something that you may not like it or it's not enthusiasm for you, may you maybe act fast and get over it. That could be one way or one approach to do it. What I do my way is I need the first kick during the day. I want that first kick start, that first motivation, the positive part of it. So I pick up the task which I like the most. I pick up the task which is probably I can do it easily, quickly, and it will get off for my shelf. So I pick up that task, I finish it, and I feel happy. I get motivated. So I elevate my mindset in more positive and energetic way because that pushes me to do more. So when I raise that emotion to a peak is where then I take the activity which I don't like it because I'm already elevated to do a task. So my approach is that way, and that's how I beat that comfort zone. Yes, sometimes overconfidence about execution, being empathetic. Okay. Yes, it's a behavioral pattern. All right. So thank you so much for giving me so many responses, and they are very interesting. Gopinath, yes, I'm going to share this that how proactivity and overthinking are related and how we can get over it. So probably you have asked me the right question, Gopinath, and that is what I'm going to lead it. So when I was studying about proactivity and studying about procrastination, that is where I also did a survey with some hundreds of business owners, and I asked them some of the challenges that they are facing. I asked them about their aspirations, their goals, and I also asked them about certain situations where they are reactive, certain situations where they don't take actions, or probably they are not taking any decision because there's certain fear. So I asked them certain questions, and I got the responses. So out of, say, I approached some 100 plus, I got 67, 68 responses. When I got those responses, I bucketed them, sorted the responses, and I looked at that. Are there any common challenges that are coming up in their responses? Are there any new things that have come up which I may not be aware? And when I did this, when I did this exercise, what came up is what I have brought today to help you understand that there are four major challenges that we face, and hence we don't take proactive approach in the business. Of course, it's the act of mindset that shapes the business. So the four roadblocks that come in our way, and that is where we either be in our comfort zone, or we call it as laziness, but it's not actually laziness, or sometimes we push certain activities or certain tasks away, is because of these four major challenges that we face. So number one roadblock is perfectionism. The other one is overwhelming. You are so overwhelmed with the task that you have in your hand. Then comes overthinking. And the fourth one is the fear of failure. So I'll take you through one by one, all the four. Of course, I'll keep a tab on the watch as well. And we will have ample time for questions, because I know I can see the chat box getting filled with comments and questions. So we will take that up if I missed any of the question. Yeah. So the first roadblock uh, that we face, and probably that is where some of you did mention it as comfort zone, and some of you did mention it as overthinking or the fear of failure. Perfectionism is one of the major challenge, and how we get involved into being a perfectionist. In fact, uh, in fact, when I was talking to some of the business owners, and they kind of entered into a very ideal stage, and they said, "Oh, this is how we do it. This is how we are doing." So I had to break them and ask them that, okay, this is what the ideal thing you want to do it. This is something that you supposedly want to do it. But what is the reality? Is it that really in the business, how you have planned, how you have prepared it, how you have executed things? Do you get the results the way it is? So they said many a times it happens that we get stuck because of we look at the perfect results. We look at perfectionism everywhere. We don't want to compromise on certain things. We don't want to delay certain things. So we kind of go into that uh, cage. I call perfectionism as a golden cage, because when we are taking a task and we are doing it, we want to make it perfect. And we don't realize that we are actually slowly and gradually building a cage surrounding us. And it's a golden cage because it gives us the illusion that we are the best. It gives us the illusion that we really are perfect in that thing. But we don't realize that we have caged ourselves. Now we can't come out of it. We can't break that perfectionism. Why? Because we have put ourselves at such a strong pedestal. We expect, and we have such high standards for ourselves, that anything which is less than that, we don't like it. Anything which is less than that, we don't approve of it. And we say, no, we discard it. Let's work this again. Now, continuously, when you keep working on the same thing over and over again, you will not be able to complete the task. However, you'll be happy that it is going towards perfectionism, but we are not actually completing the task with the time limit or with the deadline that is supposed to be done. And we keep hovering that continuously, and we get stuck with perfectionism. Now, if I have to ask you or give you an example of where does this perfectionism come from? Why is it that we always aim at something which is perfect? Why do we feel proud and happy when somebody say, "Oh, that's perfect," and our chin goes up and we say, "Yes, this is something I did and it's perfect." Perfectionism is always for others. When you do the task and when you show it to somebody else, for them, the task and you are perfect. For us, we are never going to be perfect. We will always think that this is not enough. But for others, we are going to be perfect. And that's why from their mouth, whenever we show our work, they comment is, oh, that was perfect. And we feel proud and happy that, oh, I got a comment that this was perfect. But the question again I started asking myself was that why we are so proud and happy to be labeled as perfect. And I went back to my childhood, went back to my school days. I remembered when we had these test exams, dictations in the school, and when teacher would give us a paper to write, and there were like 10 or 15 spellings, and she would dictate she would pronounce a spelling, and we had to write the spelling. And if out of 10 spellings, if we get all right, we get 10 on 10, and then she will give us 2 stars and a nice smiley. And I remember that I would take that paper back home. I would take the notebook, I'll show it to my mom, to my dad, to my grandfather, and I'll flaunt it. I'll show it to my friends, to my sibling, and say, oh, I got 10 on 10. And they'll be like, wow, I'll get a pat on the back. They'll be so happy that I got 10 on 10. But sometimes, if I get 7 on 10, 7 of my spellings are okay and 3 are wrong. If I get 7 on 10, the teacher will not give me a star. She will not give me a smiley. She would simply write okay, or not even that. And she would look at me and she'll say, do it better next time. And now I'm not feeling okay. I'm not feeling good about it. So I'll go home and probably I won't even show it to my sibling. I won't show it to my friends. I won't show it to my grandfather. I show it to my mom because she asked me, and I showed it. I got 7 on 10. And she'll say, 7 on 10. That's okay. That's all right. Doesn't matter. It's okay. But next time, do it much better. All right. Next time, you do it very good because 7 on 10 is okay. But we must aim at 10 on 10. All right. So work on those 3 spellings that you didn't write well. Look at where you made the mistake and improve upon it the next time. Now, this has gone into my head as a small child that 10 on 10 is what I'm supposed to chase. If I get 7 on 10, that's okay. It's not so good. So I must focus only on 10 on 10. And next time when I get 8 on 10, again I get a feedback, I get a comment that, oh, it was good, but not excellent, not very good. So you must look at 10 on 10. So this is how in the childhood we have been programmed to chase 10 on 10. And 10 on 10 is the best. Nothing less than 10 on 10 that you would look for, that you would aim for. Now, I'm not saying chasing 10 on 10 is bad. I'm not saying that. You must do that. You must look at your targets. You must look at your goals. You must overachieve it. You must achieve what you want to achieve. You must look at 10 on 10. But if you are getting stuck and in that raising your standards so high that to chase 10 on 10 becomes a vicious cycle for you and perfectionism becomes a cage for you, then you must look at, is it really worth chasing 10 on 10? So I'll give you another example. In 2020, when this lockdown happened and everybody was in the home, uh, the entire family, we all 4 of us, we were at home and we were working virtually overnight. The entire training industry came virtual. Some of us were not prepared. Some of us took time to adapt to the technology, to the virtual platform, how to present ourselves, how to be effective, because the mindset was that the physical trainings, the physical classroom becomes more effective. Virtually, the impact is not that much. So there was a lot of struggle emotionally, mentally that many of us went through. Also, the business became zero because everything was virtual. So some of them were prepared. They still could survive. Some of us, especially me, I came at zero. The business went down to zero. So I had to pick up again from the scratch to understand and learn some technologies and everything. And that's how I started adapting to the to the virtual platforms, and then started understanding that how I can be more effective on a virtual space. If I have the right elements with me, then I must have that screen presence as well. So I started working on that part. One of the project that I took over in that phase was I wanted to learn podcasting. So I thought that if podcasting is one that I can, why not launch my podcast channel and also use my voice and deliver something which would really help people, which will be meaningful for them. So I started learning the nuances of podcasting. So there are certain steps. Well, podcasting is a very, very different ballgame altogether. It's not just record and do it, but it's a bit technical. So what I did was the first step was to look at the concept. The second step was to write down what episodes that you want to record, what would be the subtopics, which will align to the main topic. So I did that exercise. Then came the first episode. So what will be the script of that episode? What is it exactly that I would want to speak? What case studies, what examples, and what is the storyline? So there's again a structure to write a script. So I wrote the entire script and then I said, okay, now the script is ready. So then the next step is you record it. So when you record, you ensure that you don't have any noises around. So I recorded the first time, and that was when everybody was sleeping because I did number of times and I got those background noises. So it was after midnight when everybody was sleeping. I recorded that entire episode, which was like 9 minutes to 10 minutes. And the next day, I asked my elder daughter and my husband to please listen to this first episode and tell me how is it, give me feedback. My elder daughter, I'll tell you my elder daughter's background. But if I tell you her age, please do not come and ask me my age. All right. Do not do any calculation about, okay, if her daughter is this age, what would be my age? Please do not do that. All right. So my daughter, she is 26. She'll be 27 this year in November. And she's a pastry chef. She's a chef in Dublin. She's living there. And in 2020, when I did this, I asked her and I asked my husband to listen to the podcast. So they heard the entire episode. After 10 minutes, after listening to that podcast, they looked at me and they said, "That's perfect." And I looked at them and I said, "No, that's not perfect. It's not. There are certain things that I have not said properly. There are certain ways that I have not pronounced the words properly. I have not given the pause well. I have not I have not raised my voice the way I should be. Please give me the actual feedback. Don't tell me because I'm a family member." And my daughter said that, "No, mom, this is perfect. This is actually giving the right emotion that it's supposed to be. And it is the right way." And she said, "Nothing doing, just do some edits, put some background music, and upload it as your first episode and be ready for the launch." Maybe I wasn't ready for that. Because I was like, the perfectionism was so much in my head. I said, no, 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 no. You guys are telling me because I'm a family member, you want me to be happy. So you're giving me this feedback. Nothing doing, I'll record it again. What I did, I re-recorded the first episode. And it took me again a whole week to align myself, bring that emotion, get to the script, record it well so that the background music noise is not there, and then coming up with the first episode. And I again showed them the entire episode and I said, "Okay, now listen to this and tell me if it is good." They heard it and they said, "No, the first one was better. I don't know why you re-recorded the entire episode and then it is not emoting the way it was in the first one. Even though you have sharpened your pronunciation in some words, but it is not how it should be. So I think you should go with the first episode." Both of them told me the same thing. Now, for me, um, somewhere I was not okay. I was not happy with the first episode. Even if you ask me today, I'm still not happy with that first episode. But I said, okay, I believe them and I will go ahead. And I uploaded that first episode and I launched the podcast channel and I gave the link of the first episode to all my contacts, my friends, my clients, my participants, everybody. I shared that episode to everybody and I waited impatiently for their feedback because now it's out on the world. Now it's world to decide and give me the feedback. So I sent it to all of them and within 24 hours I got some 30 responses. And one of the best response or best feedback I received that party, this would have been your TEDx speech. It is so good. And when I heard from them, I realized that probably I was stuck in being perfectionist. I was chasing perfectionism so much that I was reworking on the same thing again and again. And I was not believing that this is what I have created is okay to put to the world. So even though I may chase perfectionism, even I may say that, okay, this is 10 on 10 and this is now it is good to give it to the world. Once I share it to the world, I am going to get the feedback, isn't it? I may take it as perfect, but the world is still going to give me feedback and there is going to be a room for improvement. And it always happens. Even though we may say that this is fantastic, let me put this up. Even in your home, when you're
Sorry, I can't hear you anything. Is it just me or is everyone the same?
Even I can't hear her.
Yeah,
There's some, yeah.
got muted. I don't know. It's not coming.
Yeah, here too.
Bharti, Bharti, you there?
I think she had an internet failure, possibly.
Yeah, I think so. It's internet failure, sir.
Gopi, call her, no?
Yeah.
can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yeah.
Now we are fine.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what suddenly happened and internet just went off. So that is where I realized that I have probably stuck myself with perfectionism, and that is not how the approach should be. Because if I say I'm 7 on 10 or 8 on 10 is what is going to be good. So what I did was I adapted the principle called 70% is the new perfect for me. If I say that this is 70% okay, it is good enough to put it to the world. It is good enough to share the slides with my senior management. It is good enough to present it to my clients, to my potential customers. It is good enough to let me get a feedback. I will just share it. I will not wait. I will not rework. I will take it to a mindset that when it is 70% okay, is where I'm going to share it. And that is how I'm going to remove this roadblock. I'm going to remove this challenge from my business. And I'm not going to get stuck. I'm not going to wait for anything, but I will keep progressing. I'll keep working towards what I want to achieve. And that is how I removed this perfectionism by adapting the principle 70% is perfect. The second roadblock is being overwhelmed. Now, what happens with overwhelm is a simple, quick example I can give you is I'm sure we all have been to buffet lunches or dinners, right? When we go to a buffet, what we see is there are like hundreds of nice, delicious meals that are there. Some of them are in the starters, some of them are different types of soups, some of them are main course. There are some variety of main courses. And then you have different types of salads. And then the desserts is the entirely different section. And when you look at all these things, you get overwhelmed. You say, oh my God, so much of food and such delicious items that we have. Where should I start from? What should I eat first? I want to taste it all. I really want to maybe look at the dessert section and find out what are the different desserts that they have served, or maybe go to the starters, or maybe, okay, let me be ideal and start with the salads. All right, I will not binge myself with too much of calories, but I'll go with the salads and soup. You know, these are some of the thoughts that keep conflicting with you, and you get so overwhelmed that what should I do? Should I go into my ideal stage of saying, I'll be a good girl and only eat salads and soup? I don't want these calories. Or should I say, chuck off all these calories? Let me go to the desserts and have it. So you go through so many such thoughts inside, and then you get overwhelmed and you say, okay, forget about all these things. I am just going to eat, enjoy, and relish the food. So you randomly go to the starters or you randomly go to the salads, whatever you prefer. You pick up a plate, you take small portion of everything because you want to taste it all. And sometimes we also look at the meal and we say, ah, it doesn't look good. Sometimes you eat with your eyes and then you avoid it. You say, oh, I don't want to eat it. And then you pick up some things and then you come on a table and you sit. Now, when you sit, what you see is your entire plate is full. It's full of all the different kinds of recipes which are there. Some are just getting mixed. The gravy is getting mixed with the salad, the sauce is getting mixed with something else, but the plate is full. And now again, it's the same thing. Should I take the soup first or should I eat it? And then in that entire conflict, which is happening inside you, what you do is you simply say, okay, let me take a soup because otherwise it'll get cold. Then in between, I'll eat starters because they are warm enough. And then I'll gradually also have salads. And then you go to the main course and desserts. And by the time your tummy is so full, and that poor tummy is saying, oh my God, you stuffed me so much with the food today. Don't do that ever. And then you promise yourself that, okay, I'm not going to stuff myself. But then the next buffet lunch comes and it's the same thing. And that's the overwhelming stage we go through. Now, this was an example of a buffet lunch or dinner where it was a random thoughts that came through. You took random decisions of picking up maybe salads, maybe starters, maybe soup or desserts, and then random actions. And what you got on the plate was random results. Nothing changed because you were there. The objective was to go enjoy your time with family, friends, relish the food, and have a good time and come back. That was the whole objective. But imagine if this is the same behavior or the same uh, pattern that you have in your business. What happens? So I'll give you an example. When I used to work before, what I used to do is I would open up all the windows. All right. So here the laptop is on. I will open the Excel sheet, which has the list of all my database. I'll open the Word file where I want to put down the notes. I'll open the Outlook where I can look at the emails. I'll open the LinkedIn to look at any kind of networking that I can do or any post that I can post. I'll open up the Facebook for any personal things that I want to do. I'll also open the Instagram. Then I'll open software which I can record something. I'm blabbering and that gets recorded into text form. Then I also open some of the other Excel files. I'll open the PowerPoint presentation. So what I did was I used to overwhelm myself without even knowing that I'm overwhelming myself. I would open all of this on a laptop and then sit with myself and say, okay, now where should I start from? Should I start from the Excel sheet and look at the database at whom I need to approach? Or should I look at the PowerPoint slides and say, okay, here is the new content that I want to prepare. So should I finish that first? Or should I work on the proposal because the client has asked for me? Or should I look at my LinkedIn and start networking and talk to some of them? What should I do? Every day, this was a struggle where I overwhelm myself because there's so many things that are there on the plate and I don't know where to start. And the same pattern would repeat. Random thoughts, random decisions, random actions. And I would say, okay, this requires my attention first. Let me do this. Okay, that's all right. I like this work first. Let me complete this task. I started doing this.
Start again.
Should we leave her a comment that we can't see? Maybe she might be just continuing.
I'm sorry for this. I don't know. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
yeah.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. I don't know why the internet is acting crazy today. Yeah, so that is how I would get overwhelmed and I was not able to focus on what I'm supposed to do it. So it was always this randomness that would come into picture and I will take actions. So what I did was to break this challenge, to overcome this challenge and remove this roadblock. I started adapting to the principle called one thing at a time. So focusing on one thing at a time is what I started working on. And it started giving me tremendous results. So I also looked at the book called One Thing from Gary Keller. And I looked at some of the ways that he has put it in the book. And very interestingly, there's one approach that resonated with me and also my business a lot is domino effect. So when you start doing one thing, only focusing on that one thing, one task, one activity that you want to complete today, and you finish it and you go to the next one. I stopped creating the whole list because the moment I started creating the whole list of, that to-do list that you have, the moment I would that, I'll get overwhelmed. Oh my God, there are 20 things that I want to do. There are 20 things I'm supposed to do. 20 things that I have not yet completed. And that would put pressure on me. And then if I'm putting dates against each task or time against each task, it would put me at tremendous pressure. So I say that, okay, I'm not going to do that. I will only pick up 3 things that requires my attention, that are important to me. And from 3, I'll pick up 1, which requires my immediate attention. And I will only focus on that one thing. What additionally I started doing was I started creating a domino effect. So domino effect is where one thing that I complete will help me to do the next. It will lead to the next thing. And that next thing that I complete will lead me to the next bigger thing. So I started creating that domino effect in my business where a small task is leading to the bigger task is leading to the major one. And that is how I started getting results. So adapting to the principle, focusing on one thing at a time, really helped me to come out of this overwhelming emotional state that every time I would go into, or every day it was becoming a task for me. So I started clearing out the overwhelmed feeling. The third roadblock that we all face is overthinking. And I think somebody also mentioned in the chat box that how we can relate overthinking and proactivity or how it is different. So this was again one of the major challenges that was shared with me in the responses. And we have the tendency to overthink. Now, what happens when we overthink? And how do you know that we are overthinking? So, when you have certain decision to take, or when you have certain task in your hand, you take that action, you do the task, and then you start doubting yourself. You start asking question, is it okay? Is it right? Should I show it to somebody? Should I show it to my friends or colleagues or my family and take some feedback? Now, I'm not saying this is wrong, all right? So what you do is, because you have a doubt on yourself, you gave it to others for the feedback. They gave you the feedback, they gave you the comment, and they said, this is how, as per me, this is what it is. So they gave you their opinion about your work. Now you look at the opinion and you say, okay, some of them are good feedback. I can adapt it and I can rework on the, I can adapt to the feedback. But some of them are okay. I can ignore it. That's fine. All right. So the choice is with you. But instead of that, if you're looking at the feedback and you say, oh, this is very good, that means I don't know many things. Probably I should seek more these kind of comments and feedback from these people. Because you have doubted your own capabilities, because you have doubted your own self, you are taking external validation from others. And now this has become your pattern of seeking external validation. And now you start believing that when you get externally validated for your work, then only it is good. Then only it is meaningful. Otherwise, it is not. And that self doubt leads to creating more, it start questioning your self-worth. You don't value yourself, but others are valuing you. And now what happens is, because this pattern has slowly caught you, you get habituated for external validation. And then, of course, this leads to many things, because now you are only dependent on others. So when others tell you to do it, you will do it. Otherwise, you will not do it. So you're so much dependent on others that you may not realize that they are actually ruling you. You're not ruling yourself. And overthinking actually leads many, it actually leads to questioning and doubting your own self abilities, your capabilities, your decision making. You doubt your own decisions, you doubt your own actions, you doubt your own preferences, choices, your interest. And that is not a good place to be in. So when I realized that this is what many of the business owners, many of the entrepreneurs are facing this, they keep doubting themselves. What I did was I adapted to the principle called working from the future. Now, what does this working from the future means? It means that generally when we look at our successes, when we look at our failures, we always look at our past. And we look at the past and we say, okay, I did something in my past. It was good. So let me do the same in my present. Now, we all in the present, right now, spending our Sunday morning listening to somebody, we are doing this because we somewhere want to create a better future for us. We want to create a good future for us, isn't it? So we are actually working for the future in the present. But we take references from our past. Now, in the past, we have successes, we have failures, we have our set of learnings, but we don't realize that in the past, the situation was different, the resources were different, the people involved were different, and you also was different. You were not the same. You were different. Your mental ability, your intellect, your knowledge, your skills were different. You were not the same that you are present today. So what we are actually doing is we are working in the present for the future, taking help of the past. And that's where we kind of get mixed and we overthink. Is it okay? Is it right? Should I do this? Should I not? Instead of this, if we have a reference picture from the future, where we say, okay, this is how the future I want. This is how I want my business to be. This is how I want myself. Say, I want Bharti Naik to be like this. I want Bharti Naik to look this way. I want her to have this kind of achievements. I want these are my aspirations. So if I have a reference picture, a reference image, which is a very clear image about the future, I will take that as a reference and work in my present. Because from the past, I have picked up the learnings already. From the past, I've picked up my successes already, and I'm in the present with a very different person that I am from the past. So I am a changed person today. I have my different intellect and my different knowledge. I am skilled than what I was yesterday. So I'm already prepared for the future. So I have my present with me, but I will take the reference image from the future. I will take certain things which I want it to be that way. And that is a very, very clear image that I have. And I will take that as a reference and work in my present. And that will not lead me to overthink or question or doubt my abilities because I'm looking forward to my future and not looking back to my past. And that is what the third principle I adapted was working from the future. The fourth challenge and the roadblock that many of us, um, we kind of go through this fear, the fear of failure, and sometimes we actually don't take actions or don't take decisions. It's because this is the underlying failure, underlying fear that is there. Now imagine this is a small tiny fear that comes in, it slips into your mind and slowly becomes a giant, and it then becomes your roadblock. So fear of failure, uh, the fear starts by a simple question. What if I do this and it didn't give me results? What if I take actions and I don't get the results that I want? What if I do this and I fail? What if something goes wrong and I'm not able to go back? The questions that we ask ourselves, what if, leads us to enter into this fear trap. And because of this, the trap that we bring in for ourselves, the fear takes a giant shape. Now, what happens with the fear is the moment we start asking questions. Now, I'm not saying these questions are wrong. These questions might help you to be prepared for any contingencies or crisis that you may have. But if you're taking these questions into a deeper level where it installs a fear in you, then that's a problem. So when you ask these questions in a business, what if I do this? That means you're looking at certain situations which may arise, and you may want to be prepared, or you may have to have certain plan for it. That is a good thing. That's a positive part of it, where you are brainstorming and getting ready for it. But the fear is stopping you from taking action or decision is what I'm addressing here. So the challenge that we face is that we have so much of fear that we don't even take we don't even take the first step. Forget about taking actions and decisions. We don't even take the first step. And that bothers us. That becomes our roadblock. So to break down or to cut down this challenge, the fourth principle that I adapted was 595. That's the principle that I adapted, and it has helped me to break through this entire fear of failure and come out of this roadblock. So, what is this 595 principle? 595 principle is where, if you look at this equation, it's 595. That means 5% is where you focus on your planning. So generally when we have certain project or certain task in our hand, what generally we do is we go through certain steps. We plan it, then we go through certain research, we look at certain data, certain information so that we take a decision. Then we do certain comparison. We do certain analysis. We find out if this is good, this is not. We do certain comparison and then we take action. So we go through these steps to arrive at certain decision and then we take action. Now, in doing these 4 to 5 steps, we spend a lot of time. A lot of time goes in, in doing these 4 to 5 steps. We plan so much that the whole time goes in planning. Then we do the research, we find out all the information. It takes another sweet time of ours to do these R&D. Then we look at the data, we start analyzing it, we start comparing, taking a comparative picture, and then we arrive at a certain decision, and then we take the step. So it takes a lot of time. So what happens is 95% of our time goes into these 4 to 5 steps. And then we take action, which is 5% of your time. When we take action, that is the time the action is going to give you results, because now that you acted upon it, you have the results. Now, obviously, the results are not going to be the best results, like the desired results that you had. So what happens? You get some feedback. Now, the moment you get feedback, you go back to that planning and say, oh my God, now I'll have to plan again. Now I'll have to do the research again. Now I'll have to do the analysis again, and then create a comparative picture. And now again, I have to take the action. And by the time you do this, you actually lose the momentum. You are so discouraged and demotivated that you don't want to do anything. They say, oh, forget it. I don't want to do it. And the fear becomes a little big. Because now you are asking questions. What if I do this again? I don't get the results. What if I spend so much of time and efforts and energy and I get this much of results? What's the fun if I spend so much of time and I'm not getting the results that I want? Baba, the equation is wrong. The approach is not okay. Hence, the results you are not getting. Because what you are doing is spending a major chunk of your time, resources, energy in planning, preparing, and all these things, and action is just 5%. Now, the moment you reverse the equation and you say, okay, I want to do this task and I will plan enough. I'll plan enough to take and identify the first step. Can we do that? Yeah. So I'll plan enough. I'll look at the resources. I'll look at what do I have in my hand. What is the information that I have? And I will only spend 5% of my time in preparing myself to take the first step. Because taking that first step is important. Acting on it is important. Now, the moment you take that first step, you get some feedback. Now, after getting that feedback, you incorporate the feedback, you go back to the planning stage, you again make some changes in the planning and the preparedness, you again revise it, and then you take the second step. When you take the second step, you again get some feedback. You get the results and you get feedback. Again, you improvise on your plan. And you again take the third step. Again, you get some good results. You also get some feedback. You again incorporate in your planning, and you keep doing this till you get your desired results. Now, what is happening is you are spending 95% of your time, your energy, your resources in acting on it. And the more you're taking actions, the more you're progressing, the more you're going forward, the more you're improvising because you're getting feedback. And by the time you will get your desired results because you are approaching towards what you want. And that is what 595 principle helps you to remove that fear, because the moment you'll keep on taking actions, what happens? The moment you take actions, you get more confident. You will say, this was good. This feedback is nice. This results is good. Let me improve, change a little bit here and there and take the next step. So the more you'll take actions, the more confident you will become. And that is what is going to help you to progress in the business and not getting stuck because the fear has slipped into you. So these are the 4 major challenges that we face, and hence we procrastinate, and hence we are not proactive in our approach. Hence we do not take any actions. The moment you break these challenges, adapt to the 4 principles, you get results. And slowly, as you keep working towards this principle, the proactive mindset develops and you become more proactive in your approach, more proactive in your business. And that's what the proactivity pathways is all about, where you're adapting to the 4 principles and you're removing the 4 roadblocks that you have. And with this, I would want to open this forum for the questions, and I'm sure you will have a lot of questions for me. In case by any chance I'm not able to answer all of them, respecting the time that we have, my email address is bharti@bhartinaik.com. You can simply write an email to me, and I'll be very happy to answer you. I'll be very happy to respond to the emails, to the queries or doubts or anything that you want to comment, anything that feedback you may want to give me. It'll help me to improve my talk as well. And that is where I would open this forum for the questions. And over to you, Gopi.
only we have seen only very few people who can express the passion for the subject and profession so effectively, and you are one of them. Thank you for
Thank you.
being with us today, and we'll keep the floor open for question and answers now. Participants, you may please unmute and ask your questions, please.
Ma'am, this is Vishwanath.
Yes, Vishwanath.
I mean, the second thing, we are all by multitasking. Actually, I find it the other way. My experience is I get bored very easily doing the one thing. Probably it is attention deficit syndrome. At least when I was in school, I get whacked every day because I had a problem. I feel the way I am most productive is by multitasking. Because if I do several things at the same time, actually I find I'm engaged all the time. Because I think my attention span is so limited. This is just I'm just sharing with you.
Yeah.
What would you say for a person like me who actually thrives on doing several things at the same time? And
Yeah. So what you shared, Vishwanath, and you also asked multitasking. I know many of us, we are multitasking and we want to be engaged. We want to have that work with us all the time. So to clear some air about multitasking, we cannot multitask. We can multi-think. So when we are thinking, we have multiple things that are going on in our mind, and our mind is so complex and at the time so effective that we can actually multitask inside our brain. So in your brain, in your mind, you have already finished one task and you move to the next, and you're already parallelly thinking about third thing and the fourth. So multitasking happens inside our mind. But when it comes to doing things, you cannot do multiple things at the same time. You have to take one thing, complete it, move to the next, complete it, move to the next, up until you have mastered some of the skill. So, for example, you would have seen homemakers, you would have seen them. They are rolling their rotis, chapatis. At the same time, they are also stirring the vegetables, and they can also talk to the children or somebody who's standing besides them. Or if you'd have noticed when we started driving the car, because learning how to drive was a very conscious effort because it was a skill that we need to master. So our entire focus was only on driving. We would not look at or think or pay focus to anything else. But the moment we mastered the driving skills, and it became our second nature, it became so unconscious skill to us, we are able to tune into the radio or the music system that we have. We are able to uh, switch on, switch off the AC. We are able to drink water. We are able to talk to people, and sometimes, which is wrong, but sometimes you also are on phone while we are driving. Now, this can happen when you have mastered one skill over the other, and the one becomes unconscious skill, the other becomes a conscious skill. But multitasking, we think a lot in multitasking. When it comes to doing, we do one thing at a time. But thank you so much for asking this question. I hope I answered your question.
If I may, I just would like to add a point
Sure.
on that context.
Sure.
I'm regarding the driving context. I do those things when I drive, and a long drive with a 4-lane thing. They just have to put the accelerator and goes on. But when it comes to reversing the car somewhere, I switch off the radio and stop talking and everything. That we are conscious that we want to be extra careful. We just switch off the other parts of the brain, say, I want to get this thing done, and then move on to the next, because that takes the priority.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
just an addition.
Very
point.
true. Very true.
I have a funny question.
Okay. I may have a funny answer then.
When I was working, let's say some 3 years back, till 3 years back,
Uh-huh.
I always believed that when I leave the office, there should be nothing pending on the desk.
Mhm.
It would not have happened 100%, but the point is, I didn't want to leave any unfinished thing because certain things also require some soaking time and all those things. So
Yeah.
That was the kind of working, and I had a very relaxed mind. Going home, nothing was inside the mind bothering at the subconscious level. But now, after leaving the job, I know that totally I have sunk into procrastination. And of late, I also seem to think that nothing is happening, whether that is done or not, nothing has happened. So, why I was so much running after things? Any comments on this? Changed mindset.
Changed mindset, yes, because many a times we have crossed so many stages in our life and so many experiences we have done. So we kind of want to look back and say that why we did so much of hustle. We could have paused and take things easily instead of that hustle. And that is where we would want to go into much slower mode or into much relaxed mode, not putting up that pressure, not pumping up that blood so high. And that is where we look at life approach this way. So of course it's a change mindset, and it comes with a lot of experiences, with a lot of wisdom. A person like you who have gained over these years, it comes with that. But that is a good thing. I don't see it as a bad thing.
Hi, Bharti.
Just an observation in continuation of scenario planning, what you are saying.
Yeah.
What we used to do in the industry is almost similar to that. We call it as
Yeah.
BCP, Business Continuity Plan.
Okay.
So we have a brainstorming
Uh-huh.
among a cross section of the team and also with some external consultants.
Okay.
This is specifically focusing on what can really spoil the business, what can really affect the business in the long term.
Right.
Anybody can express about anything, and we don't curtail any ideas.
Yeah.
Everything listed down, everything discussed. But the only thing is, along with the action plan, we also include, based on our own judgment, what is the possibility of that one occurring and what is the financial implication. So that also decides the priority, which one to be attended first. And once
Okay.
an action plan is made, then the responsibility is also assigned to different people. And once in 6 months, we review. Then after 3 years, once again, we do the same exercise. Because the scenario might have changed. In spite of
Right.
having done something, we might have missed something. So we repeat it every 3 years.
Right.
So it's more or less like what you said, but we call it as business continuity plan.
Okay. All right. Very true. Yes, Rahul, you
Hi,
had a
Bharti. Yeah,
I
Rahul from Jodhpur. Yeah, so
Hi,
I mean,
Rahul.
like, yeah, I have a question for you. I mean, like, it's something I'm going through. It's about overthinking, which is leading to fear of failure as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are times when I've been thinking too much about what I've been doing, how to do things, and all those things,
Mm-hmm.
and that I mean, I'm just failed to put those things into actionables.
Mm-hmm.
Which things take first, which things take later stage. So depending on then at what happens is like there are times when I get pressurized with things left behind platter to finish on the time.
Right.
So and I still keep on thinking which one to take in the morning, which one to take in the noon, and which are less important to be taken in the later of the day.
Yeah.
So that is something I'm dealing with. I've been facing this challenge day in, day out. And I really find sometimes difficult to handle all those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you can probably do is, and I can suggest is dealing with overthinking first. And the way to deal with overthinking is first to have a very clear image of what exactly you want for your future. Like, how do you want your business to be, or how do you want Rahul to be? So, what is that clear image that you have? Like, if you ask me, I have a very clear image of how I want business, how I want Bharti Naik to be in, say, future. I'm not putting any number about 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. I'm not talking about any number. I'm saying this is how I want it to be. When I say I want it to be, that means I'm talking about an identity. I'm talking about what is my identity will be when I am being in the future. So when I have that clarity, I will always look at that image when I am doubting, when I'm even thinking about or doubting about myself or looking at my situations. I would always look at that image and say, no, but I want this. So that's okay if I'm at this stage, if I'm at this situation. The another exercise I can suggest is make a list of all the capabilities and skills and the knowledge, everything that you know so far, everything that you can master, everything that you can work wonders. So I actually did this exercise with myself, and I realized that, okay, it's not that I don't know anything. It's not that I have not done anything so far. I've come this far in my life, looking at my life situation, how it was when I was 18, 19, when I was in 20, and now when I'm at this stage, how I have come so far. And it's not a joke to sit and stand and talk about it. There is something meaningful that I've done. So I acknowledge and respect. I started valuing all those things, and that is how I removed that overthinking part. And the moment I became more clear about my things, I started valuing it. The fear went on, because the fear will only go when you take action. So I just identified that one small step that I can take. Can I do that? Yes. And I took that step. And that step helped me to go to the next and the next. And that is how I started becoming confident and remove this fear. Of course, there are other lot of things that uh, we can work and we can see, but this is the immediate things that I can suggest that will help you to at least come out of the situation that you are, and it will stop the overthinking part.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with you. Thank you so much, Bharti. That's been
Thank
wonderful.
you, Rahul. Thank you. Yes, Shweta, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Bharti. So, very nice session and very, few points are very, enlightening. So, I have one question for you. The thing is that what you said as 5:95, exactly follow that. I mean,
Yeah.
get into the action, take the steps, get into the action, and and keep on correcting and make the things better. But in this process, when we are working in the office, in the corporate, so what happens is when we start taking the actions, always colleagues feel like she's taking the independent actions, not taking everybody into confidence, not discussing, not making thing, not very cooperative. But I feel that okay, these are the things that need not have much discussion, but always it creates a conflict. They creates, like, among the colleagues, it creates dissatisfaction. So how to
Yeah.
deal with these things? But what I feel is, if I continue to talk and take the opinions of everybody, and then discussion, nothing moves, and the time passes away, is what I feel. But everybody doesn't feel in that way.
Okay. So working in a team, in a corporate or in a company, has a different approach. So when you say I want to adapt to 595 principle, all right? Now you may adapt to this 595 principle when you are doing your individual work, when you have certain things at your desk and you are adapting to the 595 principle. Now say for example, you want to also extend this approach to your team, and you have your colleagues whom you want to get involved. Now when you are doing this, uh, it is always good to become a taskmaster than to become a people pleaser. Like, instead of focusing on people and whether they will feel bad or they will not like it, I would involve them. And my questions will be very directive questions towards the task, towards the actions, towards decisions that will lead to completion of the task. And before even asking questions or leading them to the certain ways, um, I would simply put up the goal or the objective or the outcome that we have. Now, because it's a team, we don't want them to be authoritative. We won't want us to be look at, in a very authoritative manner, and we want to impose certain things. So what we can do is we simply say, okay, put everything as a timer and say, this is the 5 minutes we have. Let's discuss. And after 5 minutes, this is what the results we would want to be. We want the results that after 5 minutes of discussion, we should come up with one common outcome that we want for this task. After 5 minutes, we should come up with one objective that we have. After 5 minutes, we should come up with one first step that we can identify to take it up. So when you time the discussion and before you start, you make the objective clear, you are actually directing these your team members, the colleagues, to move into certain ways, because we people, we have tremendous energy inside us. We have a lot of thoughts, we have a lot of opinions, and we want to throw it all. Sometimes we want to just show it everybody. So we need to direct them, we need to channelize, because we may not know their opinion or suggestion would be worth for the project, for the task. So we may want to take that as a taskmaster's role and direct the communication in such a manner that every time we are getting the results. So for doing this, for making the 595 approach adaptable for the team, you may want, as a person, you may want to be very clear on what is it that I want. Because if you are clear about your destination, you'll be able to direct the path and you will take everybody along with this to reach the destination. So that is how you can adapt to 595 in a team, and it will really help you. Hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, Sujata, how are you?
Yeah, doing well. Hello.
Yeah, I can hear
Am I?
you.
Yeah. See, I am also working in the corporate, and Bharti, your presentation was excellent. I just have one couple of questions. One is, see, when a person is not very comfortable being questioned or being or if I give or listening to suggestions, or maybe not receptive to listen to others, what I have seen in my past experience is that they immediately try to turn the plate and say that my work is of no use for them, my work is redundant. So how do I handle that situation?
If somebody is saying that the work is not good enough, or it is nothing to do with the work. It has a lot to do with the person being valued or cared, because the emotion is playing as a major role. So the moment you let the person involve, now if it is happening with the other person and you are at the receiving end, then you may want to involve the person. You may want to give that space to the person and also acknowledge the efforts. But if it is happening with you, where you are not being acknowledged or you are not being valued and you feel that way, then you may want to communicate with the people who are involved and present it in a way that they may not like it, but they look at the value that you are building, they look at the value that you are giving into the project and say, okay, this is how you are getting involved and you are actually giving value, so we acknowledge. So you need to bring it to the point where they start acknowledging the efforts and the value that you're bringing to the table. So a lot depends on how you are communicating and presenting it in a way. But the underlying fact remains that the person is not feeling valued or worthy. And hence, all these tantrums or all these reasons come up. I hope I answered your question, Sujata. You want me to?
Yeah, to some extent, I agree with you. My other the opinion that I had was that person has built or created an image for himself, saying that he is a personification of perfection. So when certain things are being brought to the surface by me, he is finding it difficult to accept his mistake and rectify it, however polite and however soft I go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you come across somebody who's a perfectionist and they think that
sorry, he claims to be a perfectionist.
Yeah.
Everybody looks at him like that is a $1 billion question. But this was a point which I just wanted your opinion on. Yeah.
And so this happens everywhere. People perceive themselves as the perfectionist and they start showcasing that way, and that's how everybody will start believing that yes, they are the perfect people, they are perfectionist. And sometimes, so I had this one such person, a very good businessman, an architect, and people would actually had the prefix saying that, oh, he's Mr. Perfect because he's the perfectionist. He does this perfectly, and he would really feel proud, and like the chin would go up, the chest was broad, and say, okay, I'm a perfect person. And I was in the opinion that perfectionism is a golden cage. It actually cages you. You may not want to chase perfectionism and get caught into it. So I went to his office. I sat with him for like 3 to 4 hours. I said, I want to interview you. I want to rip you left, right, center. Tell me why this perfectionism. Because this is what I believe. This is what my opinions are. But I want to hear from you. And he smiled at me, Sujata, and he said that, Bharti, actually, people think that I'm perfect. I, to some extent, believe perfectionism is the key. But perfectionism, hear me out, perfectionism is not the destination. Perfectionism is a journey. So as you move along in the journey, you chase and you thrive to become perfect, but that is not the destination. The moment you say perfectionism is the destination, you will screw it up. You'll actually blow your project. So he's an architect, and he said, when I create a plan, a blueprint for any building or any bungalow, the thing on the paper, I may think that it is perfect, but when it comes to the execution, I know there are 10,000 things that I'll have to change in the blueprint because the reality will change. And that reality has to have change. There will be certain things that will impact the blueprint, and they might have to go through changes. So I never say that my plan is perfect. I always look at it as a journey. So this is how he helped me understand, and this is actually a problem for some of them who look at themselves as perfectionists. So as a person, what you can do is you can this is my thumb rule, and I can pass it on to you as well, Sujata. So always agree with the client, always agree with the person and say, yes, I agree with you. You could be perfect in whatever you're doing till now, and you may think that is the right way. And the other way of doing things is this. Why? Because if you look at the glass, even the glass has all the sides. If I look at from here, the perspective is different. But if I look at from the side, the shape changes. If you look at from the bottom, the size changes. Do I say that only looking from the top is the only way? Maybe there are three different perspectives, there are three different ways, and all the three sides are same. All the three opinions are correct. They are right. So I may want to add on to what you are saying and get along with it. Because if you conflict, if you stand against or stand tall in front of the person, there is always going to be a rejection, and the resistance will come, and you will face the same thing again and again. So if we want to get along with the person and work, get the work done, or probably complete the task, achieve the outcome, the goal that we want, we have to get along with the person. I'm not saying rubbing the ego. I'm not talking about rubbing the ego. I'm talking about agree with the client that yes, you are a perfect. This is the way that you have always done this, which is good, which is right. And this is the other way. I avoid using the word but. I always continue by saying and. And some of the ways that you can change in the words in the language, and that will help you to get along with the person. And you can always make the person agree that yes, this is also the right way to look at it. She's just adding to what I have done, which is not wrong. I'm just adding a little bit. If I add a small pinch of salt, it's not going to change anything. If I add a pinch of salt in the ocean, it won't make it more salty. It's the same thing. So by doing this, you may want to get along with the person and get the work done. That's the best way.
Wonderful, Bharti. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, Sujata.
Yeah.
If I have some time, I just would like to have one question of mine.
Sure, sure.
So, see, I have this over-ambitious, I would say over-ambitious because it was an external validation, as one of the points that you mentioned. consider that it ought to be done one or other day, which is something about the root cause of food safety in our country. And this, can I? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So in that thing, that is an over-ambitious, or it can, in newer terms, we can say, I've been thinking for a long time about this, addressing this concern for our country and for generations to come. So it is over ambitious to address at the root cause. We can all start in a little bit, and we can reach it somewhere 20 years down the line. But the victims are going to be a lot more by the time. So at the same time, I grew up with a perfectionist. So I had this since my childhood. I have this view of perfectionism in everything, which I'm in my late 40s. I've reduced to maybe around 60% or 70% now. Now, I'm not expecting to be a perfectionist as much as I was in my teens. Now, this is a deadly combination of over-ambitious thinking and a perfectionism for procrastination of addressing the task that is very overwhelming. We are thinking about a project of 1,000 crores or more, and how am I going to do it? Or it ought to be done, but how am I going to do it? Or where to start? Who will help us? Whether the people will, the external validation will be more harsh on me and my current sustainability even. So these things are not happening. But there is a thin line between fear and greed, or what is possible. We have to walk in and address this concern. This has been going a long time in my thought. So I don't know where I should start walking in the thin line. Maybe.
Okay. No, but this happens a lot, Venkatesh. I would look at it the other way. I would say a person who is over ambitious would want to get things done anyways. I'm over ambitious. I want to achieve things. Even I would say over ambitious could be for you, but I'm ambitious. I'm aspirational. I want to do things. I want to achieve certain things, and there's nothing wrong. I can do it. I want to do it. I will do it anyways. So I would not let perfectionism come in my way, because if it is not helping me, if it is not working the way I want it, if I'm getting stuck, I better remove the block and move ahead, because I'm ambitious. I don't want to stop. So people who are over ambitious or ambitious, they don't want to stop. They continuously do it. They are okay to fail number of times. They would say, chuck it. If I fail, I'll do it other ways. I came to know that this is not the way to do it. So I'll keep on doing things. I'll keep on working towards it. I won't stop myself from doing anything. And I won't even shy. I won't even hesitate. And I won't even deny that, yes, I failed 10 times. That's okay. But I will still go ahead and do it, because I'm ambitious and I want things to achieve. So there are people I've come across, business owners, those who have really done wonders. What they get stuck at only one thing, that is overthinking. Sometimes they get tremendously stuck at thinking over and over with one decision, and that delays their growth, that delays their progress. Like, I was coaching one of the business owner, and he was delaying that decision for like 6 months now. And he said, I don't know why that hesitation comes up. I get nervous. I don't know why.
Could that
I
be
said,
the stakes are high? Could that be the stakes are high that they are?
yes, of course. The stakes were really high. And one decision would have led him to a profit of more than like 1 crore a week. But that decision was, he was like literally he was like nervous. So we broke down this entire thing and we said, okay, let's look at one thing at a time. Let's see what we have right now. Let's see what are the stakes. So we started looking at every part of it. And then we say, okay, now if you take a decision, what are the consequences? Because sometimes you may want to voice out, you may want somebody to even listen, you may want somebody to just have a objective overview of what you are going through, and you can't discuss it with anybody else. So he did that, and he then made a decision, and he said, okay, I believe myself, let me do it. So it was only that my job was to make him believe that he can do it. and he's right in his own way, rest will look at the outcomes, because decision, when you're actually taking a decision, is not going to define it. The outcome comes always after you have taken the decision. So how the the entire situation changes only happens after, not before you have taken a decision. So he took a decision, he went ahead, and he took the action as per it, and he's getting a profit of more than 2 crore a week, and he's very happy with it. And he said, probably I would have done this 6 months, 7 months before. I said, so be it. We are now doing it. So the only place where people who are very ambitious, they get stuck, is overthinking.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It's really an eye opener. Thanks.
Thank you,
very much.
Venkatesh. Thank you. Hey, Arvind, how are you?
Hi, thank you. It was a very good session. I have one small question. Because
Sure.
sometimes in my company, we being into service industries, okay,
Mhm.
the service engineers would like to see his managers or his his seniors to lead by example. So when the thought of lead by example comes up, consciously the persons want to become more perfection, because if the manager does a mistake, okay, the juniors who are following it, okay, would be doing the same mistake. So there what happens is, to become more perfect in what we do in service, because we need to do the right thing at the first time, we don't have a choice. People start overthinking also. So how do we, in a service industry, how do we balance this perfectionism and overthinking? Because our industry is, you have to do the first thing the first time the right way. We don't have a choice, and we need to lead by examples for our juniors.
Yeah, that's very true, Arvind, and it is, I think, a very good example, because when you become a role model to somebody, there is a tremendous pressure. The onus lies at you, and you don't want to mess it up. You don't want to fail, because you always have that fear that, oh, I'm a role model. They are looking up to me, and I have to give my best. I have to be the best, and I can't mess it up. And that pressure, actually, what you said is very right. It moves to the overthinking phase. Now, to come out of it, or maybe not getting trapped into this, what the best way, I would give you an example, is of a recipe. Now, I am also running my bakery business, so I always come up with a lot of desserts, and I always do my experimentation with different kind of desserts that I can serve to my clients. So I'll give you a quick example from that bakery. So the thumb rule in the bakery business is stick to the recipe. Now that recipe needs to be very detailed. We can't say that, okay, there are 10 ingredients, you mix 10 ingredients, you put the batter into baking, and everything happens. It doesn't work that way. As a baker and a chef, what you need to do is, you need to go into the details of the recipe. So when you are in the service industry, you need to go into the details of every service that you are offering. So in a recipe, when you know that there are 10 ingredients, if I have to give an example, in 10 ingredients, if one of the ingredient is butter, for example, and you want to mix all the ingredients so that it becomes a nice batter to bake, and when it bakes, when it comes out, it has to be a perfectly baked cake with the right texture, with the right moistness, with the right softness, and it should be same as it is for few days. That's where you call it as a perfect baking. If one of the ingredients is butter, you need to also look at it, is the butter, and that is where the difference happens, all right? If the butter is cold, you have took the butter right from the fridge, and you have took some part of the butter and put it in the mixture to the batter to happen, and then the baking happens, the texture will change. But if the butter is at a room temperature, and you have mixed that room temperature butter into the mixture, and then it goes to the baking, the texture is different. And if the butter is melted, like actually melted butter, and now you're pouring that melted butter into the mixture and making it, the texture will change. So now you got three different results. because of the temperature of one ingredient in the recipe. So you need to go into that detail of the recipe to understand that how every ingredient is behaving differently with different temperature. And then the recipe, following the recipe to the T, where every process is important. And hence you get a perfect baked cake. Now, when you look at your service industry, when you are a service engineer and you are a role model, have you put down the details of every service? Have you put down the details of every ingredient, every element that you have, and how are you actually objectively looking at the situation, addressing the requirement or the doubt or the query of a client, and giving your service? The more you break down into it, and you have the entire manual ready, you have the entire training ready for the service engineer, what will happen? One, the chances of failure will reduce. The second is also they will look at you as a human, then a perfectionist, because humans can make mistakes, and those will be small mistakes, but you always have something to look up to. So you are looking at the service in a totality and saying, this is how, if you miss out on one single thing, the result will change. If you don't look at the process, the result will change. So giving that detailed information, that detailed understanding of how the services happen, will at least ease out that pressure of becoming a role model. And instead, you are actually helping and supporting the service engineers to be ready and prepared for any situation that may come in. So they will look up to you as a human who is a role model, then as a perfectionist, where you have the fear of, I can't fail because I'm a perfect. So that will ease out. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. It's another perception. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, over to you, Gopi.
I just posted one question for you in the chat box.
Ah, the situational leadership model, Ken Blanchard's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use the situational leadership, the framework of Ken Blanchard quite often in the coaching. As a leader, you can't stick to one type of leadership, and you always have different situations. You always have different people, and they have different perceptions around you. So always you are ready to adapt. What interestingly, I also focus is how flexible you are as a leader in adapting to different situational leadership frameworks. How flexible you are in also looking at different perspective and also accepting it that, okay, this is a different way of looking at it. One of my team member has given me this suggestion and I may look at it objectively. So how flexible you are in doing this, how strong rapport that you have built with your team, and they look at you as an open leader to adapt to the certain things and not being very rigid in not accepting. You may hear it, you may listen to them, but then you have your own ways of doing it. Okay, I heard you, but I'll do what I want. So, yes, the leadership framework really helps wonders. And I add the elements of NLP within that framework, some of the NLP concepts that I add. And that is how I then say that, okay, now you are a proactive leader where you have adapted to the proactive approach and you are also looking at situations objectively. So I do use the framework in the coaching. Thanks, Gopi. Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking your time out on a Sunday morning to be with us. It was an excellent session. We really enjoyed a lot of takeaways for all of us. Personally, I had a lot of things, a lot of learning myself,
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. And all the questions, comments, I was not able to look at the chat box after some time because it was all scrolling up. So apologies if I missed some of the comments or questions. But it was indeed a pleasure for me as well. And the questions did trigger a lot of thinking inside me to answer them. And the more questions come in, the more you are able to share the learnings that you have. So thank you so much for this platform, Gopi.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bharti. Take care.
You too. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful
Thank
Sunday.
you. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.